All right, it is Thursday. It is noon, and we are listening to Prince, so that means that you are inside the Greenhouse Effect. I am your host, as always, Hayden Greene, and I just got started off with a party today. We just have a party going on, and yes, Anthony, I am wearing pants. Yeah, that's my song too, man. That's my Get Up and Go song. That is my Get Up and Go song. And so yeah, we're gonna have a good time today. I got a lot of stuff to talk about. I got like a whole list of things to go over, and I am not outside with no pants on, Jennifer. I am inside, and I have something on. I have trunks on. I have something. I'm not wearing formal pants because y'all are not going to see my pants. So it is a weird scene, but it's my scene. What's up, Nathan? So let's see where we are. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about a couple of different things. Morning, Mom, and my mom's chiming in here. So I want to talk about a couple of different things, and but the first and foremost thing that I want to talk about is that I have abandoned the brothers who cannot get haircuts. I could not do it any longer. I had to cut my hair. I'm sorry. I had to do it. I couldn't take it anymore. I would wake up in the morning and there was hair on my head, and I would be like, oh my God, what am I doing with this thing? And then I would have to brush it. And then and then it got to the point I was combing it. I was combing my hair. It was a travesty. So I shaved it. It's all gone. Back to the baldy. I hope everybody approves. I apologize. Sharnice, I'm telling you, man, just buzz it. Cut it all off. Go with it. All right? But I feel much better. I'm in better spirits. Last week we had a pretty hard time going, and and I hope that we can uplift a little bit and have some fun today. So let's get it started. So the first thing that I want to talk about is that as we spoke about last week, we had a couple of people. I had a couple of people who have had the coronavirus, who have suffered through the coronavirus, and then and then we lost a frat brother, and so it's been a tough time, right? Just dealing with all of that, and I'll put my hat back on. I don't get to wear my hat very often, so I'm gonna put it back on right now. So we lost a lot of. We're losing people left, right, and center. I spoke to somebody yesterday whose mother, father, and brother were dealing with it, and they had an older brother who was in a coma from coronavirus, and then we so we're hearing over and over there's a lot of death around us, and a lot of people are being infected by the virus. Here's the thing that I have a question for, and I don't understand is there seems to be a stigma about being infected by this virus. And I don't understand why people are acting like when they get the coronavirus, or if they've gotten the coronavirus, or people who look, people who are looking at people who have gotten the coronavirus are being treated like it's a STI or some sort of affliction that comes along with bad practices. So here's the thing. I can wash my hands and keep myself safe, and somebody can come contaminate me, or I can make just one mistake, maybe touch a doorknob that I shouldn't have touched, and I can get this disease, right? And I'm not quite sure why I'm experiencing a lot of people who seem to be ashamed of the fact that they've gotten the coronavirus. I don't get that. I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand why some people are hiding it. Like, oh man, he got the Rona. Oh, what was he doing? It's like, I don't know what that is, and I don't understand where it's coming from. And I feel like it's really detrimental because there are a lot of people who don't want to admit that they have had this disease and have survived it and are doing better, or more importantly, that they've been affected, that they've been infected, and have now the need to actually seek out help. Seeking out help to get, to get healthy is the first thing. But before you even get to that point, you need to at first admit that you've been infected. And I think that there's an unhealthy stigma going around that, I don't want to tell nobody that I got this thing. It's like, it's not an STI. It's not like you were being careless and you didn't use a condom, or you were a drug user, or there's no stigma attached to it, or at least there shouldn't be a stigma attached to it. And I think that that's a dangerous word that's coming up. And so that's my first thing that I started noticing over the last couple of weeks, where there were people who was like, where have you been? Like, I haven't heard from you. Yeah, man, I had the Rona. I didn't want to tell nobody. I was like, well, like, why? What's the secret? Like, we have thousands of cases of coronavirus in New York State and City, and it's not a problem. It's not an issue of people being dirty, or people doing things that are unsanitary. So again, like I said, you can be doing everything that you need to be doing and still make a simple mistake, or somebody can come in and infect you that you didn't know. Like, you could be sitting at your house and somebody went out and didn't do what they were supposed to do and came and brought it into your living room, right? So I think we need to get away from this attitude or this feeling that it's like, oh man, I can't tell nobody that I got the Rona, because like, oh wow, Hey Joel. And so that's the first thing that I have to say about that. The second thing is a really interesting statistic that is coming out, and Governor Cuomo spoke a little bit about this, and the what do you call the guy, the head of the Corona Task Force for Trump also spoke about this. This disease is now afflicting people who are poor and who are marginalized, right? And so, yeah, you're right, Hector. Because people don't want to admit that they have it, the numbers aren't right? So there's another issue, right? So that's the other piece of it. But again, it's a disease that seems to be really targeting, well, not targeting, but the people who are getting it are really working class people and people who are underserved to begin with. And so that's the next issue that we have to deal with. In Louisiana, 70% of the cases that have been reported are people who are working class or working class or part of the the poor, right? The under the poverty level. And a lot of and I told people, I was like, look, and actually that number's wrong. It's 70% of the people who are afflicted with it are people of color, right? And that in Louisiana, a lot of that correlates to working class citizens, and only 50% of the population in Louisiana is African American or people of color. So what does that tell you? That the vast majority of the cases are of a particular race or demographic, and that doesn't match up with what the population is. And I told somebody, I was like, if you drill down even deeper into that number, I bet you would start to see that it's all the people who work in the service industries, right? So people who are going into the hotels to have to be bellhops, cleaning people, people who are working in the bars, people who are working as, cleaning up the streets and doing things along those lines. Louisiana is the home to what? New Orleans. And when everybody else was telling everybody to shut stuff down, they went ahead and had Mardi Gras and kept on partying long after that for St. Patty's Day, all up into St. Patty's Day. And people was all across the country were like, this is crazy, you need to start shutting your cities down, but they didn't. And so who has to service all of these people that are coming in, or people looking at, or people who want to keep their jobs, are the bar backs, the bartenders, the wait staff, the cleaning people, the bellhops, the people all throughout the service industry who had to service all these people who were going into New Orleans, coming in, doing what they wanted to do, and then leaving a trail of and I hate to say it, but a trail of disease, right? So you go, you congregate with people, pass it around, and now all the people that are left behind in New Orleans and in Louisiana have to deal with what is left out there. And I think that it's a travesty, and I think that it is something that we will again look back and see as a secondary and ancillary issue of this whole virus, this whole crisis, but it's something that we have to really think about. Governor Cuomo talked about it. It's like it's the poor that gets affected far more in situations like this because of lack of testing, as somebody said it just a few minutes ago. And of course, lack of resources. And then again, you add on the next wrinkle of the fact that what we just talked about, where people don't want to report that they have it because there's some sort of stigma. It's like, oh man, they got the Rona, right? And we've got to stop that. We've got to stop that because it will stop people from going out and getting tested. It will stop people from getting treated, and that'll be the worst part of this whole thing. If people don't get treated because they think that there is something wrong with them or that there's some sort of a stigma. But I think that we have a long way to go, and we have a lot of things that we have to get done in order to get us back to where we are in some sort of normalcy. But the first thing is getting everybody tested and making sure that we are a healthy society again. I can't wait for it because, to be honest with you, this is killing me. If I have to teach this kid new math one more day, I think I'm going to jump out of a window. It will be a first floor window, so I will have minimal injuries, but it will be a window nonetheless because this new math, I don't understand it. I don't understand it. It takes too long. Memorize the numbers table and let's keep it moving. That's all I'm saying. What's up, Mr. Pena? In the house? Here's another interesting thing that we will get back to, that we're back to again. So the first thing that everybody wants to jump on board with talking about is that all this virus came from from China, and and here in New York, that sentiment kept getting pulled around as well. It's like this Chinese, we've got to stop the Chinese, people coming in from China, and this and that and the other. So there's a new study out, and it shows that the vast majority, and I mean vast, vast, vast majority, are people who are the vast majority who got infected here in New York State. It did not come from China. It came from Europe. Yeah. That changes the demographics a little. That changes the conversation around this a little bit, right? Because now you in New York, there were people who were literally avoiding Chinese food restaurants, and there were bias attacks against Chinese or people who even looked Asian in New York City. And so now what? Right? Now you're gonna turn around and say. And now you're going to turn around and say, it was like, oh, well, we need to be biased against people who look European. That's not going to happen, right? And so therein lies the rub, right? And so certain people in this country are really quick to vilify an entire demographic of people, and when it suits them. Right? And now that there is evidence, not just supposition, there is evidence that the vast majority of people were infected from European immigration, European people coming in from traveling from European nations. Where's the rhetoric now? You're not going to see it, right? And I was even surprised that finding even got out into the media. I figured that would get hidden, but it got out, and it's out there. And so now there's another topic. So now we're gonna go for all those people who were just evil and mean to all of your Asian restaurants and Asian businesses. You're gonna go apologize to them? Should. You avoided them. Some places had to shut down, and this is wider than all of business and the social distancing and all the rest of stuff. But before we even got there, people were avoiding Asian businesses and Asian people. Yes, the cracked chicken spot. Like, I think that's the first place I'm going, Stan. When this is all said and done, I'm going to the cracked chicken spot. Anybody from Brooklyn knows the cracked chicken spot on Snyder Avenue and Utica. That's the joint. But yeah, so I think that it really, and right. Some businesses went out of business because this is before the whole social shutdown thing, and I really hope that when this is all said and done, that those places really get. I really hope that those people get a flood of support when this is all said and done, because there's a lot of supposition out there, and there's a lot of rhetoric that was really damaging, and everybody was quick to the gun, everybody was quick to the holster, and we didn't know anything. And now we're getting facts out, and now we're finding out that there are certain things that we thought were true that absolutely weren't. And I think it's a real testament to the fact that we need to have more information, because what we get is at the best sanitized for our consumption. So we can't go by, oh, well, I heard this on the news. Well, what you heard on the news is probably about 1/10 of the truth, right? And so I think that we need to use this as a lesson to not jump to certain conclusions just because we listened to one newscast from one television station about this particular issue and didn't look at the whole picture. But yeah, that's my point on that. Speaking of how this disease and this whole crisis has become racialized, I don't know if we talked about this, but a couple of weeks ago, two French doctors talked about, it was like, well, if we're going to test the vaccine, we should test it on Africans. We should go to Africa and test it in Africa to see if it works. I heard the words come out of his mouth. The guy's name was Jean-Paul Mira, and I was flabbergasted, and I think that it was such a visceral reaction to it, where it's like, really, we had nothing to do with this, right? Like the African continent had nothing to do with this. Like it wasn't an origin point. It wasn't a place that there was a promulgation of cases. It wasn't a hotbed. None of the countries were a hotbed. And the first thing that this French doctor thinks about and is looking to do is like, we should test it on Africans. There's a point in every black person's life where there is a question that will never be answered because nobody's really going to be honest about it. But there's a point in every black person's life where there is a question about, why do they hate Africans so much? Why is there such a disdain for people from the African continent? And when I heard it, I was like, well, my God, this is not the Geneva Conference where everybody sat down and divided up Africa. It's like, all right, Portugal, you take this, and Spain, you take that, and England, you take that, and the Netherlands, you take that. This is 2020, and there was a French doctor saying, let's go to Africa and test the vaccine. Like they did for, I forgot what the disease he talked about, with prostitutes down in Africa. What's happening? What did we do to you? Like, and I don't understand. And like I said, every black person at one point in their life has this question. It's like, what did we do to y'all? What did we do to the world that people hate us so much? We're awesome people. We're awesome. We're dope, right? And I can spend the rest of this podcast just talking about how dope African nations are. Everything from the resources to the ingenuity of its people, to the tradition, to the love, to the spirit of the people, to our physical prowess, and on all of the rest of that stuff. Why does that make you hate us? There's the whole jealousy thing, and I've heard that argument as well. But it's got to be deeper than that, and like I said, we'll never get that answer because the truth is painful, and when speaking about it, there is a certain level of I guess culpability that people want to move far, far away from. So I don't think that there's ever going to be a real answer to that, and psychologists have been digging into that for years, and that's and I'm not trying to offend anybody, right? This is not a session about why we're greater than anybody else isn't or anything like that. But that comment from the French doctor just like brought all of those feelings back up again. I was like, really? We had nothing to do with this. We didn't, and so that was crazy. And it all started too because there was a report that there were no African nations with cases when all of Italy was decimated, and all of Iran and Iraq was decimated, and there were 0 cases in African nations. And people were like, well, why not? I was like, I don't know, but why are you upset that there isn't? It should be like, oh my God, thank God you guys are not dealing with this stuff. Y'all just stay where you are and don't come over to Europe. No, it was like, well, I wonder why they're not having any cases. Let's go test them. It's amazing. It is amazing. Yeah, I love this bow tie too, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Let's pivot for a second. We gotta talk politics because we always talk politics on Thursday, and so whereas the actual I guess what you call the whole campaign season has been a little bit different because there are no rallies, and people are not going out to truck stops and going out to diners and stuff like that, and glad handing people and kissing babies and doing all the rest of that stuff. So it's been a really different campaign season. But yesterday we got news that that Bernie Sanders has suspended his campaign. So Bernie Sanders is no longer in the running for president. I actually saw a meme that somebody said that Bernie Sanders has tested negative for the presidency. That was mean. It was funny as hell, but that was mean. And so there are some people like Greene that will be like, woohoo, Sanders is not in the race anymore. There are some people who are upset that Joe Biden is now the presumptive candidate. Here's the thing. It didn't matter who the presumptive Democratic candidate is. I cannot stress this enough. We cannot have another 8 years of the lunacy that has plagued this country with the Trump presidency. And I'll put my politics right out there on the forefront, but it has nothing to do with Democratic or Republican. And the Republicans need to step up and say this as well, because that man hijacked this country. And if this virus crisis is any indication of what we have been dealing with, it is paramount that we get over the thing that plagued the country 4 years ago. It's like, well, I don't really like Hillary, and I hate Trump, but I can't see myself voting for Hillary because I don't like her, so I'm just not going to vote. Can't do that this year. Can't do it. You have to get out and vote. You have to make your voice heard. To be frank with you, I don't care if Donald Duck, a man in a Donald Duck suit, was the one running for president against Trump. Actually, no, absolutely yes. If a man in a Donald Duck suit was the man running for president against Trump, vote for the guy in the suit. It's been a lunacy. And the thing that is crazy about it for me is that Donald Trump seems to feel that nobody is recording his words. He will say something, let's take the crisis, for instance. He will say that this is not a big deal. This is just a big flu. It's a hype of the left, and that everybody is just making a bigger deal out of this than needs to be. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, we're doing an amazing job. We knew it was a crisis from all along, and my team is out there doing the greatest job. Dude, no, you didn't. And for nothing else, I think that the president of the United States needs to have integrity. And I think that there is a lack of integrity that has infiltrated the White House, and there needs to be a change. And does Biden have more integrity than the current seat? I'd wager he does, but I guarantee you that he has far more professionalism. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Biden stan. I've said this time and time again. That is not my dude, right? But he is the dude now. He's the presumptive dude. So, where you at? What are you gonna like? For instance, I thought that Elizabeth Warren would have made the best president out of the bunch. Out of everybody that was running, Elizabeth Warren was the person that I thought was going to be the best president. And she is no longer in the race. She is no longer a candidate. And that statement applies to everybody else except for Joe Biden. So I think we need to get it together. This country as a whole needs to get it together and stop with the waffling. It's like, well, my guy or my woman is not in it anymore. Therefore, I'm not going to vote for Biden because I feel like he's a this or he's a that or anything along those lines. keep your eye on the goal. Keep your eye on the prize. There is the. I don't think people fully wrap their mind around the fact that if Donald Trump becomes president again during this election, it means that he will be what is called a lame duck president. And I implore you to go look at what happens to people in their second term of the presidency, because one, they no longer have to get reelected, right? So in their first term, they've got to do certain things in order to appease their base, right? Because they're going to need those votes when it comes to them getting reelected. So they can't be super obnoxious, although kind of has been. But they can't do certain things because they don't want to alienate their base and the centrists, right? A lame duck president doesn't have to deal with that. So you'll see in second terms of all presidents, whether you're talking about Carter or whether you talk about not Carter, sorry, whether you talk about Bush or whether you talk about Obama or Reagan, in that second term, you start seeing policies that are outrageous. It's like I don't have to worry about getting reelected. I can do whatever I want. There are pardons galore. There are executive actions galore, and so they basically go buck wild, and that is the dangerous piece right now. If you make Donald Trump a lame duck president, this country will be changed for generations. Generations. I'm not talking about years. I'm not talking about decades. I'm talking about generations, right? First of all, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not going to be able to hold out for another 4 years. She's not. I love her to death. I just don't see the rigor of being a Supreme Court judge being good for her health. And so, Ruth Bader Ginsburg is one of the stalwarts of the Supreme Court, and if she goes, that means that whoever is the president at that point gets to appoint whoever they want. And so we already have a 5-4 Supreme Court. If Ruth Bader Ginsburg passes away and Donald Trump is president after being reelected, you will have a 6-3 majority in the Supreme Court. That's not healthy for the country. It's not. It's just not. 6-3 liberal or 6-3 conservative is not healthy for the country, especially if you're putting people on the court like Kavanaugh, who has a history of being lecherous and then trying to sway everything towards a conservative values, right? So if you thought the 1% was really in power or was really moving the dial at this point in time, wait for a 6-3 Supreme Court. It'll be disastrous. It'll be disastrous. There are already challenges to the Roe v. Wade regulation on state sides, at states levels right now, in preparation for them to be elevated to the Supreme Court level, for where right now it's a 5-4 conservative bench, right? And there are no centrists on the bench right now. There are very few people who are like, all right, I can see both sides of this, and depending on how good the argument is, you may convince or you may not convince that person. There aren't those people anymore. All those people are gone. Scalia was kind of one of those people too, and you know where that went. And so you have to again understand that if you're talking about Donald Trump as a lame duck president, generations of change. And I think that people don't get that. And so go ahead and talk about like, well, Biden's not my person, so I'm not going to vote for anybody. I won't vote for Trump and I won't vote for Biden too. Go ahead and do that. And then when we start looking at what happens in 3 or 4 years, you'll see that was the worst thing that you could have ever done in your entire life. But, it's up to y'all. It is up to y'all. Everybody needs to do their part. But so that's just my take on the politics of the day. I think that we're in a dangerous position, and we don't need to make it any more dangerous, and we don't need to make it any more crazy than it already is. All right. So let's pivot out of politics for a second. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but this all that I have been seeing. It's this. There's a new challenge out, and everybody is doing it. It is called the Don't Rush Challenge, where people. Where are we? People do this whole. They put on really frumpy clothes, and then they take a brush or they take something and they transform themselves. And it's a TikTok thing, and they transform themselves into looking dapper. Two things. Too many of y'all are doing this. Some of y'all are transforming from bummy to less bummy. That's number one. Number two, there are a lot of people out there who are showing just how bad catfishing is in the club, because I'm seeing some people, men and women. I'm seeing some people who are literally like ogres, transforming themselves into some really, I'm not going to say attractive, but relatively attractive people. Now, I'm a married man, and I have never been so happy that I am not in the dating scene. Because if you look at the Don't Rush Challenge, man, some of y'all are going home and hooking up with, yes, I know, I said ogres, right? Sorry, my bad. But y'all are going home with, y'all think of 10s and 9s, and the makeup comes off, and the wig comes off, and the this and the that comes off, and it's a good, solid 2. You know, it's like, y'all are playing yourself. No, I'm serious. Everybody, y'all gonna get on me about this, but like, look at these videos. Look at these videos. A lot of people are like, holy jumping Jehoshaphat's Batman, and the next thing you know, it's like, whoop, that can't be the same person, and it is. And so, it's a crazy world that we live out there, and I need y'all to be careful, because that woman, that dude that y'all are thinking is awesome, might not be. Yeah. Oh wow, this is a big honor for me. Marsha is in the house, and Marsha is one of my favorite people. She is so dope, and I'm happy that she's jumping on here. So that's the Don't Rush thing. It's like, I won't be doing one. I think my chapter is planning to do one. I can't. It's everybody's doing it. I saw one with chefs the other day. And Chef Jeff, I think, might have been in it or something like that. And so people are now, the chefs are doing where they do the thing and they come back and they're holding their signature dish. I don't need that right now. I can't eat that. I can't eat that. You showing me the stuff that I can't that I can't partake in right now. Like some beautiful food, you turn around and there's a shrimp dish and all the rest of the stuff, and I'm like, well, that just made me realize that I ain't gonna have shrimp and grits in a long while. I don't need that. It's just wrong. I've seen one for every sorority. I have seen one for fire women. I've seen one for healthcare workers. I've seen one. Oh, I saw a really funny one. This one was actually pretty funny. I saw one where the person started off was all dressed up, and then they drank a glass of wine and they turned into the bummy person. That was funny. But I won't be doing one. I won't. I can't. There are too many of them out there. Somebody needs to come up with a new challenge, and it can't be licking the toilet seats like we talked about last week. Somebody needs to come up with a new challenge because I'm a little bit done with the whole don't rush challenge. But that's just me. And I'm gonna say this, and then tomorrow I'll probably see one that will blow my mind. I don't know what that could be, but I think we've run. I saw one with black male pilots. All right, yeah, okay. I I just think that we run the course on this one, and everybody's trying to come up with their own spin on it, and unless it is completely, I'm hating. No, I'm not even hating. I'm really not. I'm really not. I'm just saying, y'all single people just need to be careful about what you see, what you take home, and what you think is an attractive person, because there's a lot of stuff going on. And even with the guys, there was one where I saw a dude look completely scrappy, and then and I was like, I think he's wearing makeup. Has to be, because his skin cleared up and all the rest of that stuff. So I'm just saying, find something new. Let's do something else. All right. So I wanna close out today talking about how we're gonna come out on the other end of this crisis. I think that there is. We can find every bad thing that we can talk about what's happening with us right now, and I think that there is a lot of stuff that we can put on the box on the list of things that we wish that we didn't have to go through. But I think that we're getting to the point where, especially now that people are talking about the curve is starting to flatten out and we're coming down on the other end of it, I think that there is a lot of things that we can start to put on the other side of the list. And I think that that'll get us through mentally a lot of what we're going on. So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about what are we going to learn, what's our life's goal when this is all, trying to find out our goal in lives. But I think that when we look back at this time, I think, especially now, we need to start figuring out what are the things that we are gaining for, I'm not coming out fat and drunk. One of those things doesn't apply to me. I think that if we start making a list of all the things that we're gaining while we're in this period, it'll help with our mental processing of what's happening to us. I will say, for me, there are a couple of things, but for me, one of the main things that I benefited from is spending more time with my children. They are driving me crazy, but I got to spend a little bit more time with them during the day. So, what's up, April and Susan? When on a day-to-day basis during the week, we are ripping and running, right? So, in the morning, it's during the week, I get my kids at the worst possible time for children, right? So I get them in the morning when they have to get up and go to school, and we wake up pretty early. We're up at 6 a.m. And we're out the door by 7, right? So they're not happy at that period of time. I go to work, I come back home. By the time I get home, it's time for a bath or dinner, and it's, again, a ripping and a running. That's not the greatest time for children. And so I miss, as a working parent, I miss the part of their lives when they are happy. I miss the part of their lives when they're running around, they have energy, and they want to do things that are interesting. And so I've had the opportunity to experience that part. Now, it hasn't all been great. So I'm not sitting here painting a picture of roses where it's like, oh my God, me and my kids, well, blah, 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 blah. But when they get through with their homework, or when they get through with the schoolwork and stuff like that, I've played Monopoly with my kids, right? We've had Monopoly. My eldest one whooped me in Monopoly the other day. I was like, this is not a good look. It's not. It's not. All right. And the other day, my youngest, and those of you who know my youngest will be surprised by this, pulled me over, and we had a full-out dance party. Daddy, daughter, dance party, just hanging out, dancing up a storm in the dining room. And I would not get that if I was at work all day long, and if they were at school all day long, because that energy, kids, after they've gone through a full day of school and gone through the commute home and all the rest of that stuff, when they get home, they don't want to deal with you. They don't want to deal with you. I don't want to deal with them. They want to deal with you, right? They want to get some food in them. They want to relax a little bit, and they don't want to go to bed. And then they don't want to go to bed, and then that's a fight, right? So having that time when they actually have the energy and the desire to be around you and finding ways to entertain and engage with each other has been a true blessing. And as much as I complain about, the schoolwork and having to be a surrogate teacher and my wife having to be a surrogate teacher, I do actually appreciate the time that I'm getting to spend with the kids when they actually are awake and have the energy to do things that they're interested in. The weekends are a wash, right? Because this one got to go to this practice, that one got to go to this recital, this one got to go do that. So it's a wash, right? And so we try to get things going during the weekend when, if they were in a regular mode, but even that is difficult. So this period has really yielded some interesting quality time. And I have gotten myself a new sous chef, which is super surprising to me. Anybody knows me knows that I love to cook. And my youngest has found herself in the kitchen every time that I'm cooking. And now she can crack eggs, she cuts up stuff. She's 7, right? So she cuts up stuff, she puts stuff on the stove, she fries stuff up, and she's actually a really good assistant in the kitchen. And now she's saying that she's not a sous chef. She's a regular chef, and I'm the executive chef. So I'll take it, because if that elevates me to executive chef, I'm good. I'll take it. Whatever, right? But I've gotten that relationship with her now, that if I want to connect with her in anything for any period of time, I know all I gotta do is just drag her in the kitchen and we can cook together and we can talk. And that's a time where we're not arguing with each other. I'm not yelling at her, or she's not yelling at me, which is what normally happens. She yells at me most. But we've gotten that piece, and I don't know that it would have developed as quickly if we didn't have to be forced in together, because clearly I'm cooking every meal now. So whereas it used to be they would see 1 or 2 meals from me, I'm cooking every meal now, and so now she has the opportunity to do that. And so it really developed over this time of being forced together. But that's one of the great things. I've been trying out new recipes. What's up, Darren? Y'all should follow Darren. Darren is really Darren's YouTube channel is really interesting if you are into horror. So y'all should check out Darren, and he's right here. Darren, just put your information out there. As a matter of fact, let's use this as an opportunity. If you have something that you want somebody to follow or something like that, put that in the comments so that people can follow it. You got a product, or you got a service, or if you're a DJ, if you're one of the 1,400 DJs doing live sets, put your information down there as well. But yeah, figure out what you're going to gain, right? So I've gained more time with my kids. I've gained an appreciation for her cooking. I've tried out new recipes, and speaking of new things, I am just finishing up that tutorial on photography. So I'm going to get that up this week, probably today, and so y'all can check that out, and then we can. And then we can go from there. You tell me if you like it, and then we'll see if we'll do some more of them. If a lot of you like it, then I'll do some more of them. If one person says this was dope and then nobody else likes it, I'm not doing it again. All right, Darren's stuff is up there. Again, like I said, if you got some other stuff you want people to follow, put it in the comments. I'm going to wrap up today. We got Do Me Baby on the radio with Prince. It is coming up on 1 o'clock. It is Thursday. It's a beautiful day outside. It's a little bit cloudy, but it's beautiful because I'm standing on 2 legs and I got the world ahead of me. So This has been the Greenhouse Effect. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next week. Go forth and be prosperous. Love you all.